Carl, if you want to just summarize your first 4 days of practice, and then, of course, the excitement of finally hitting the pads tomorrow, and then we'll take questions.
Well, we actually hit pads today. So we had 5 days of practice, today being the 5th, today being the padded day. It was a good work day. Did a lot of stuff. We did our, second and third down transitions. We did some red zone. We did some backed up. We're coming out a little bit against the defense. So we're doing some game situational things. And I think our players are doing a really good job of paying attention and, getting some good work in. So I'm very pleased after 5 straight days that we get the work we got in. They have a rest day tomorrow, and we get to pick up again on Thursday. But so far for the 5 days, I've been very pleased with where we are, and still got a ways to go for sure. But their attitude's right, and we'll get there by the time we play. So I'd like to open up now.
First question's from Brian Howell, Boulder Cameron.
Hey, Coach, hope you're doing well. I wanted to ask you, now that you guys are in pads, what's kind of the fine line that you'll walk between wanting to get them physically ready, but also with such an unusual offseason, not wanting to give them too much too soon?
Well, today was a pretty indicative time of doing exactly what you just said there, Brian. We have one live period today. We did a kind of a tight red zone play period where we had a couple plays for the offense and to score. If they don't, we kick a field goal. But you're right. I think it's really critically important for us to determine how much of the physical contact we do, and also balancing that with our health and keeping the progress going forward, for our success on November 7th. So we are being very mindful of that. The players have done a great job of just taking care of themselves in between practices, and we're trying to really preach the hydration piece, and also to do all the rejuvenation things. So far so good. We had a good day today. There was nobody that was inflicted today with any injuries, so that's a good start.
Let's go to Adam Munster-Tiger from Buff Stampede.
Hi, Coach. Not only do you have the testing component added on this year, but in a normal year, the players wouldn't be in class through the entire preseason. Have there been many conflicts with that and the players in their class schedules? And how's their day been kind of structured after practice ends?
It's a great question, Adam, and I'm telling you, I'm very proud of these young men, because you're right, it's not a camp setting, even though we're trying to make it a camp setting. They do have class in the afternoon. They do have tutors, appointments, and tests and papers and stuff to do. Even though we have them in a hotel and kind of trying to create a camp environment, they still have a lot on their plate, and their attitude has just been great, been fabulous. They know that it's double duty, from their standpoint. It's not just all football. They got school to take care of, and they've handled it really, really well. So, hey, it's kind of what it is, right? At this point in the year, the season where it is, starting in November, you're almost at the end of the semester, all those things. But, I think our guys are excited about playing. They're doing what's necessary for us to be successful, at least making those steps that way. And so we're doing pretty good that way. But that's a great question. They are balancing it pretty well.
Justin Guerrero, CU Sports Nation.
Coach, I'm curious, just with your extensive history coaching wide receivers specifically, just as you guys are going through a number of these practices now, as you're making the rounds during a given practice, do you at all find yourself maybe gravitating a little bit more towards the wide receivers, just given your history with that position group?
Absolutely. That's just a natural draw, right? I kind of gravitate there. I played the position. I've coached it for most of my career. So yes, there is a natural draw to that. And they know that they want me there. I want to be there to have some impression on them. So I get involved in their individual periods, working on technique and fundamentals. And then I do leave, and I do that with a number of position groups, but it does start with them. I do start the start of the practice with them and spending some time with them. And then I kind of set my rounds from there. But they appreciate that. I mean, they're great kids. We're so deep at that spot. There's a number of guys that can be helping us this year. We got to narrow that down at some point, but it's a good problem to have. It's a great problem to have because we have some depth there, some young players that are going to step up and help us, along with the young players that we still already have in the program. So we're very fortunate at that position.
Back to Brian Howell.
Coach, I was curious about Colby Purcell. You know, he played center 2 years ago, guard last year. Where do you see him fitting in this year, and what are your early impressions of him? I know it's tough with offensive linemen before pads, and today was the first day with that, but your early impressions of Colby.
Well, Colby's off to a great start. You know, he's kind of a steady Eddie for us offensively. You know, he's our center. He plays some guard. You know, you know how offensive linemen are. You know, and it doesn't matter what level. You know, they play more than one position. You know, so he's playing the guard position and the center position, and you know, he's taking great care of himself. He spent a lot of time. I'll tell you this, Brian. He spent a lot of time this offseason really getting himself in great shape. And you know, I know he's had ailments, you know, in his past, you know, with knees and things like that. He's been really managing those things really well. So he's doing really good. You know, I think we got to be smart still as coaches and not overload him, even though as much work we want him to have. You know, he's one of those veteran players that he gets it, he understands it. He doesn't need as many reps. So we have to manage him so that he is healthy and can sustain these 6 months or these 6 games. So, but I couldn't ask anything more of him. He's doing everything we've asked him to do. He's been a great leader. He's really doing a nice job for us.
I've got time for 2 more for Karl. First, Neil Welk, CUBuffs.com.
Hey, Karl, just a quick question on being in full pads today. Is this where you start to see separation in a lot of those position battles that are going on just on both sides of the ball?
Absolutely, Neil. I mean, this is real ball now, right? I mean, it's, you know, started in helmets and you're not having much contact, and all of a sudden I call light bulbs, was just the shoulder pads, because a light bulb is kind of big at the top of it, right? So it's light bulbs when we're just in shoulder pads. And you know, we had some good physical work even in light bulbs, but today was the first day in pads, and we had some banging going around. I was really pleased with what I saw. I saw it on both sides, you know, in every position. You know, we had a competitive drill where every position was going against each other from a one-on-one standpoint, and they did a great job of competing. I wanted to see who want to compete and who wants to be tough, and you know, who wants to win the drill, things like that. There's some really good measurements today of a lot of hooping and hollering of guys, you know, cheering each other on and stuff like that. So it was a great start for your first day in pads, and these guys did a lot of work today.
And Rod Mackey, 9 News.
Hey, Karl, with everything that you've seen in just this last week in the NFL, again, just reminds everyone there's no sure thing. Does today, the fact that you're in pads, does it feel like, you know, you keep taking steps towards November 7th? Did today feel like another step towards the reality of actually playing football?
Absolutely, Rod. That's a great, I mean, absolutely. That's how I felt when I was walking off the field today, is that, you know, I have a positive impression that, you know, football, this is how it's supposed to look. It's what it's supposed to feel like. You know, that first day of pads was a very productive day. There's a lot of stuff we did, and they did it fairly well today. So I'm encouraged. And you're right, Rod. It's you know, I think today's it tells you a lot. You know, when you're in pads for the first time, it tells you a lot about the temperament of your team. You know, who's going to strike somebody, who's not. You know, things like that. But for the most part today, I think all of our kids have been very competitive. You know, corners, you know, I've been on those guys a lot because, you know, they weren't necessarily playing as tough as they usually play, from what I saw last year. And I saw a lot of corners step up and really make some really great tackles today. So I think our team as overall is learning how to play in pads and understand the expectations that go with it.
And Karl, Jalen Sounding's going to sub in for Terrence Lang, who has to go lift. So can you just talk about Jalen really quick, since you're writing about him today as well?
Who is that? Say that again.
Jalen Sounding.
Oh, Jalen. Well, Jalen's doing a good job. You know, he's one of those guys that's been playing for us, as you guys know, as early on in his career. You know, he's still a very young player. We have a lot of high hopes and expectations of him. You know, he's an ideal size that you want in terms of the position of what you want your nose to be. And great kid. Obviously, he's been a great student as well. So he's on the upswing of his career right now. I know he's had some really good experience already, but what I like about him is that he's understanding, really the whole scope of being a college student, college, student athlete. And he's, I think the world of him. I think he's got a chance to really be a guy that has a chance to play on the next level, when it's all said and done.
Thanks for joining us today, Coach.